In what condition do we now find ourselves? I want to suggest that the Salvation Army today has fallen victim to its own considerable success. For much of the past century, the Salvation Army has been sustained internally by generational inheritance rather than conversion. The world has been pleased with us as a nostalgic reminder of good but quaint folk doing things that they admire but would not really be comfortable with themselves. In the last 30 years, even that has begun to fail, as the external culture has shifted so rapidly and profoundly that even the most robust internal institutional cultures are failing. Churches have not helped themselves as their profound self-regard has been laid bare in the scandals of abuse. So where does the Salvation Army sit in all of this? I want to suggest we now sit exactly where the churches were 100 years ago. A culturally exclusive club removed from the poor in predominantly middle-class suburbs, focused overwhelmingly on congregational maintenance, whilst letting a small group of paid professionals dispense to the needy by means of ministry to rather than journeying with. We are in an even worse condition than some churches because we've strange language involving concepts that have largely lost their meaning. Is it any wonder young people question soldiership or why we are calling our halls and citadels churches? Is it because they've lost their original purpose and function? The Salvation Army was created as a deliberate affront to many of these very things. Some say the future is to be found in becoming more like the church on the corner. We can use our congregations to fund our social work. But what then happens to our name? Well, we can dispense with the militarism so we can change that too, and eventually just merge with the wider Wesleyan strand of the church. After all, this is what happened to those Wesleyan movements which went before us. The problem here is that Booth deliberately created the Salvation Army to inhibit this very tendency. That is, we've not only our own internal cultural distinctives, but we've spent 100 years building a public image that we, the soldiers of the Salvation Army, are those Christians with their sleeves rolled up that the Red Shield ads constantly reinforce. We cannot simply walk away from that without creating something of a cognitive dissonance within our movement, one that I suspect is already abroad, and if not remedied, will kill us within a generation or so. This view also seems to presume that there is no longer any need for a movement with the characteristics of the Salvation Army. Here I wish to become the optimist and suggest that for all our difficulties and apparent peculiarities, the Salvation Army is potentially better equipped to meet the present age than many other religious bodies. The world is growing smaller. The global village is a looming reality. Yet individuals are losing their sense of local identity. Neighbourhoods are increasingly anonymous. Social institutions are not keeping pace. Churches are under challenge. The old doctrinal orthodoxies of right belief are confronted by the realities of institutional failure. Some say that the world of churches defined by doctrinal and liturgical practice for much of the past 500 years is over. The test is no longer right belief, but right action. In today's world, right action is not only determined by personal and local relevance, but by its global impact. This sounds very much like the world for which the Salvation Army was born. The Salvation Army's global structures and local expressions have renewed relevance as global problems increase. While global institutions are in retreat, we are one of the few religious bodies structured to operate in a world where global issues must be locally redressed. Our heritage of evangelism centred around practical love of neighbour resonates with what missiologists describe as a new paradigm for the church. Social justice is the new evangelism. For the Salvation Army, it's been there from the start. To quote another old chorus, the world is needing us Christ is leading us. Comrades, let us be true. His love constraining us, prayer sustaining us, faith will carry us through. His service calling us, none appalling us, deeds of valour we'll do. For souls are needing us, Christ is leading us. Comrades, we